Hey guys, it's Rush. Hope we're all doing well. Welcome back to the channel. My quest for the perfect 6-button pad continues, and in this video today we're talking about the RetroBit Saturn Wireless Pro controller. This is not to be mistaken for the standard Sega Saturn style controller. There are some advanced features that you don't see on the standard pad on this controller, and I'll talk about them as well as the good and the bad. So out of the box, you have two receivers. You have the Sega Saturn receiver and you have a USB receiver. This is a wireless only controller. Manual with a lot of information regarding configuration, thank you note, the pad itself, and a charging cable. You cannot play this controller wired. This does not connect the controller to your device. It's wireless only. So I went with the white controller, the Japanese style color scheme, but there is the European or US black, all black version. So this control pad, it's the same size as the standard Saturn pad, but it comes with additional features as I mentioned. So you can clearly see the analog sticks. You have a left analog stick and a right analog stick. You can press them as well. They are buttons, so you can use them as an L3 and an R3. But this is what surprised me when I first saw this pad. Look at the top. You've got 4 shoulder buttons, 2 on the left, 2 on the right. So front 2 buttons, they are bumpers, they are shoulder buttons, and these back ones, they're triggers. If you can see it, they are triggers, but they don't feel super triggery. They feel more like bumpers as well, more like shoulder buttons. So I quite like that, and the feel of the pad. The buttons, they're not anything super special, but they're responsive. They have a nice feedback. The trigger at the back is a bit more clicky in terms of the shoulder buttons. It really feels good. But the most important thing I'll mention in this entire video is the D-pad. Hands down, this is the best D-pad on any fight pad I've ever used. It beats the Hori Fighting Commander. It beats the Beat-Up C3. I'm really impressed by the D-pad. I think the Sega Saturn D-pad, and I think even the 6-button Mega Drive / Genesis pad had the best D-pads in terms of what I remember being a kid growing up. But yeah, I mean, if this was how the Sega Saturn D-pad was before, and they've recapitulated that now in this controller, just wow. I don't know, I'm really impressed by it. So this is the default button mapping and the macro inputs settings you can use for this pad. So it mentions you can use it on Sega Saturn, on Switch, on PS3 and PC. So I'm using it on PC at the moment, but PC specifically mentions D input and X input. Now I didn't know what this was, but there's 2 different ways that your device, your PC, can register the controller. Now when I had it set to D input, I couldn't get the buttons to map in the way I wanted to. X input was a lot better for button mapping, but I won't go into too much detail with this because there's a lot to cover. But I'll just say that it was a little bit finicky to get the options I wanted from the pad. It mentions flashing red lights on the controller and different button settings. I couldn't identify the LED that they were talking about in the manual, but all I know is when I was trying to sync it to my PC, I'd have to do a reset in terms of controller configuration each time and set it back to the X input. It would sync up straight away then. So the wireless receiver is connected, and I will now turn the controller on. 2 green dots signify that the X input is configured on this control pad. Now this actually synced straight away. I didn't actually do anything on the pad to sync it to the wireless USB receiver. So that's worked straight away. Holding start and B will change the input method from X input to D input. So that now is set to D input, and that again did it straight away. So in typical IT fashion, I'm trying to demonstrate it not syncing, and it is refusing not to sync, which is a good thing, so that's awesome. So let me change it back to X input now by holding again start and B. There we go. So perfect. So that's the input method that I want. I'll now go into Street Fighter 6 to map my buttons. So this is the button configuration settings for Street Fighter 6. I'll set my punches to the top row of buttons and my kicks to the bottom row. So light punch, medium punch, heavy punch, light kick, medium kick, heavy kick. I will skip this for now, I'll come back to that later. I'm going to set my 3 punches to LT and my 3 kicks to RT. Now if I wanted to set my 3 punches to R B, which is what I naturally have. I usually have 3 punches here, 3 kicks there. You can do that, but I then lose my, I believe it's my heavy punch button. I think that's changed. So yeah, the mapping for Z and RB are the same, and the same goes for, I believe, so heavy kick being C and LB. Yeah, it's the same button. So you can't, these two buttons mirror those two buttons with the X input method. I don't think the D input method fixes that either. So that's my only sort of gripe. I mean, that's a personal gripe. It's not really an issue with the pad itself. It's just I don't like that button layout, but it doesn't mean it's a bad pad by any means. It's still a very, very good pad. I just wish I could map these two buttons. So that's fine. I've done that. And then I can, going back to here. So the reason why I've got heavy punch and heavy kick set to R3, it's this one here, is because this is the drive impact button. So this doesn't apply to you if you're playing other games, but I can set drive impact to a press of the analog button. So I have done that, but if I'm honest, it's a bit tricky in matches to sort of press that down in the heat of the moment. It's actually easier just to press these two manually, but I can set that there as an additional button just in case I want it. So I'm in training mode now. I'll talk you through how the pad actually feels. So before I even press any buttons, the pad sits really nicely in my hands. The D-pad position is perfect. The button position in terms of the face buttons is perfect. These are in line as well. And I think this is super important for good fight pads. You don't want the D-pad to be too high, too low, and you also don't want them to be out of line with the 6 face buttons. So you can see it's pretty much centered. The D-pad sits in line with all 6 buttons. That's really nice, but it sits nice in your hands. It's not super chunky because you've got the 4 shoulder / trigger buttons now. It is bigger up top, so it's a bit thicker than the standard Sega Saturn pad, but not by much. But it's a decent size pad, and it sits really nice. So the actual feedback in terms of pressing buttons, whether it's the D-pad or the buttons, even the shoulder buttons as well, they do, how to explain this, they feel, it's got like a really nice soft feeling, but it's crisp at the same time. It's soft in terms of it feels really nice when you push the buttons, but it's very sharp, it's very crisp. You don't have any issues with them being too responsive or not responsive enough. It's just right, and I really like that about the feedback of the buttons themselves. The most important thing about any fight pad is the D-pad, and like I said, this D-pad is so good. I can't even explain how good it is. Inputs are clean, inputs feel nice. I know exactly where my thumb is at every moment on the D-pad itself. Yeah, my inputs when I've been testing this pad out for the last few days have been so clean on Street Fighter 6. I can't explain it. I'm doing the more difficult combos, the Jinrai juggles, the corner combos with ease. It genuinely makes my inputs feel better than they actually are, and that's a really bold statement to make. I mean, it's a new pad. I haven't had months on it, so maybe the D-pad will deteriorate over time. I don't know, but out of the box, it's the best D-pad I've ever used. Simple, like that felt like no effort at all, and it's not a difficult combo to do, but you can make mistakes with timings and just general inputs. But that was first attempt, so easy to do. I can't believe it. It's actually crazy. You know, when I land the combos, I'm kind of speechless because I can't believe how clean and easy the inputs are. I sometimes forget that I'm recording when I'm doing these combo examples for the video because after I do them, I'm just like, man, that felt so good. So yes, I really like this controller. I love the way it feels. I love the design. I love the feedback of the buttons. I love the D-pad. My only criticism is that it's a wireless pad only. There is no wired version available. I have reached out to the retailer to find out if there will be a wired version in the future. Fingers firmly crossed. So in terms of the wireless, it was super stable. I didn't get any drops when I plugged directly into the USB in my motherboard. I didn't notice any input delay either. I didn't notice any extra lag on my inputs. It seemed very responsive, very, very good. So that's a massive bonus. I'm not a fan, as mentioned, of the wireless functionality. I much prefer wired. But again, I can't fault the product. The product is solid. The wireless connectivity with the pad and receiver was really good as well. I don't think there's much more I can say at the moment. I will invest some time in the controller over the next coming months, and I'll do an updated video to tell you how I'm getting on with things, and I'll let you know if I hear back from the retailer regarding a wired version. It is an awesome pad. If the wireless doesn't put you off and you like the idea of the button layout, then this is for you. Thanks for watching, guys. Any questions or queries, as always, let me know. I'll catch you in the next one. Take care.